The Russell Hands Show presents TRHS Sports, your home for daily fantasy sports news from around the league. Draft preparation, roster move strategies, injury updates, and expert advice from Russell Hands and his team of fantasy gurus. If you're looking to make big bucks and win your league, look no further than TRHS Sports. Don't forget to subscribe to TRHS Sports.
How's it going, everyone? For those who don't know me, my name is Adam, and I'm the director, editor, and co-producer of the Top 100 Greatest Survivor miniseries here on Russell Hantz's YouTube channel. We wanted to thank everyone for all the views, all the likes, all the subscriptions, all the people that joined Russell's Patreon group from this series, and we wanted to thank you guys for all the comments that you leave below, whether you agree or disagree with the placement. That's really helped us be able to craft this into a great series that we're proud of. I wanted to address you today. I know we normally open each episode with a story or a fan favorite giving a message to you guys, but I wanted to episode this day today briefly for you guys and explain how the list was made, because it seemed like a lot of people were confused on the criteria, maybe thinking that the placements seemed a bit random. I know Russell explained how the list was made on some podcasts on previous videos, but we realized some of you might have missed it or forgotten. So I just wanted to quickly explain how the list was made. So one thing you guys got to understand is this list is judging every survivor who ever played based on their greatness. But greatness means different things to different people. Some people say Rupert wasn't that good of a player. Some people say he's amongst one of the greatest of all time. So we wanted to bring together 5 people that had 5 different lists and kind of average them out. So you had Phil from the Survivor Specialists kind of based his list more on how well each person played their first time. You had Alexa from the Survivor Specialists, who had a much more character-based list. I myself based my list on things like how memorable that person was, how iconic they were, if they made any great moments, people that you have to, people that come to your head when you think of the game of Survivor. So when you talk about impact, obviously people like Tommy and Wendell and Nick Wilson, who are amazing players, but because they're so fresh, their impact hasn't really been felt on the game yet. It's kind of the opposite of recency bias. Russell Hantz, the Survivor legend, was our 4th person who made a list, and he based his list on, big strategic moves and how well that person played throughout all of their seasons, if they happen to play multiple seasons. And our last list panel member was Corey, who's a Survivor super fan, and he based his list on the perspective of just that, of a super fan. So this list isn't just who's the best strategic player, who made the most big moves. It's a combination of social game, character, iconic status, how memorable they were, how great they played their first time, how great they played, and averaging out all their times, how entertaining they are. All those things combined, we thought this would be the closest way we would get to truly ranking greatest survivors. So with that being said, we still encourage you guys to leave your comments. We love hearing if you disagree with a placement or you think someone should be way higher, but we just wanted to make sure going forward everyone truly understood the criteria and how this list was put together. So enjoy this episode. We're going to be ranking numbers 60 through 51, and stay tuned for the finale episode in a couple weeks where we finish up the list with numbers 10 to 1, because we got some really big, amazing, awesome stuff planned for the finale episode. So enjoy.
Previously on the top 100 greatest survivors.
I call Eric the silent one as an oxymoron.
We're going to see Rick Devens a lot.
She's really intriguing. I think she just goes all out.
And super intense. He's very good at showing. He's a professional athlete.
Playing with Bobby was very interesting.
She's such a nice person to be around.
It was cool working with Nick, man. Nick was understanding, you know, Nick would listen.
Jenna Maraska is one of the quintessential social players of Survivor.
But he is hands down the best survivalist. Like, that guy should do Naked and Afraid.
By the time she got to the All-Stars, she was right up there. I think she did a great job.
And now, the countdown to number 1 continues. The greatest game on television, and these its most respected players.
Who is your number 1?
The number 1 spot.
Number 1 spot.
Who deserves to be number 1?
It's impossible to pick one that's the greatest survivor of all time.
It's time to celebrate the castaways, the legends.
The number 1 survivor of all time has to be...
This is the top 100 greatest survivors.
His game is, he acts like he's not really playing hard or paying attention, but he is. He's so smart and so sharp, but he comes off as this farmer that just out there just having fun.
I live on a farm, and the first sheep jumps in a hole, the rest of them follow. And here we were, following this blonde girl, zigzagging through the desert, saying, I think we're this way. We need to get our water. You get a line, I get a pole, babe. You get a line, I get a pole. We'll go fishing across that hole, honey, baby mine. All right, let's let it settle, though.
You know, there's a lot of characters that play that are intense or that are hard to be around. He certainly was not one of those. So it was great. Super. And actually, I've still remained really good friends with him. Of all the 16 of us that played together, he's one of the ones that I'm still really close with.
He did me wrong. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I'll kill you after I kiss you. Ham, he's a Jew and he won't eat the ham. He's a Jew. He's a Jew.
Big Tom is one of the funniest people that I've ever met in my life, that I just laughed and laughed every second that I was around Big Tom in the game of Survivor. But I think that he really uses that as a disguise, where that, oh, you know, he talks about how, like, he's not that smart and he's always making jokes. But I think that Tom does have like a really keen mind for the game. And he ends up making 2 really deep runs in 2 different seasons, and is very close to the end both of the times that he plays. So I think you underestimate Big Tom at your own peril.
To walk away with that million takes a lot of luck. And so far, I've been pretty lucky. I'm just extremely happy that I've made it this far. So I'm gonna suck it in a little bit and enjoy it.
Hey there, once again, it's the Once Upon an Island YouTube channel, and Big Tom was a beloved character on Survivor Africa when the season aired. Our next survivor was also beloved when his season aired, and coincidentally also finished in 4th place, just like Big Tom. However, this player has the distinction of creating the first fake idol in Survivor history.
Unbelievably smart. He's probably the smartest player to ever play Survivor, intelligence-wise, IQ-wise. Actually, Yao Man, so he grew up in, I think, Borneo, or same vegetation, the same area. And they didn't have shoes, I think, until kids didn't get shoes till like 3rd grade or something. So you can imagine being in that type of poverty, the schooling that they had was just inept. So basically, this dude taught himself to be an MIT graduate.
Yao Man launches. Yellman breaks his second rope. Yellman wins the 2008 Ford Super Duke.
I want to see if I make a deal with the car.
You're going to negotiate with the car.
I'm going to negotiate a deal. There's 6 of us left now, right?
Yes, it is.
When there are 4 of us left, if you and I happen to be 1 and 4, if that happens, if you win the immunity for that round, you will give it to me.
I promise to God.
When there are 4 of us left.
When there's 4 of us left, and if I win immunity.
So I want to be clear. You're saying, I'll give you the truck, and the condition is that if we're both in the Final 4 together and you win that immunity challenge, Dreams does, he'll give it to you.
Right.
Dreams, you have the immunity necklace. It is yours to keep or to assign to anyone else you want. What are you going to do with it?
I'm going to keep it.
15th person voted out and the 9th member of our jury. Yeah, man. Would you bring me your torch?
It's a game for $1 million. I ain't go there to make friends, and ain't nobody else come there to make friends, and we ain't come there to not lie to each other. Or, I mean, I think my move was when we made that deal, I couldn't. I don't care about a truck. It's a shot at $1 million. I'm not giving that up just because you gave me a truck or just because people think I should have done what I done. I done the right thing 100%. We came there to play a game. We didn't come there to be like, well, in real life, if you give me something or if I say I give you something, we didn't come there for that. We came to play a game. I played it to the best of my ability, try to get as far as I can, try to win. I respect him as a game player for sure. I respect him as a person, you know what I'm saying? But when your game goes against my game, you know, and that's just the bottom line. A game versus a gamer, competitor versus competitor, we're there to compete. You know, I love the guy. I think the guy is amazing person.
Yao Man's lovable demeanor is certainly remembered by us all. Our next survivor is also someone who is lovable and seemingly has a nose for getting to the end of the game, as he has finished in 3rd and 4th place in his 2 appearances. If you don't know who this is, then maybe you'll remember his love for Mark the Chicken.
He's so lovable around camp. He just makes himself a huge asset by always finding food, working all day in and out, and he's just super pleasant and lovely to be around, and he's a great person.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna give me a freaking heart attack doing that.
Oh, there's coconut too. Why am I here? You know, look at me, I'm bald, you know. Big head, bald, big ear, you know, skinny little body. I don't belong here. I just think, my God, when I go home, people say, huh? That made a mistake. Why are they putting you on a beauty trial, especially my boyfriend or somebody?
Ty's very good. Again, like socially, everyone likes Ty. So, you know, and he gets a, you know, and he's a hard worker. And so he can get himself, you know, along. And he's smart enough to, you know, find idols to help, you know, like, so, you know, and he did well both his seasons.
What's going on? Wow. Wow.
The real fallout from his move was that it guaranteed him no votes in the final. Because as I mentioned earlier, nobody really worked with Ty. It was just kind of like, okay, Ty's there, and everybody liked him. But he didn't strategize. He was just paranoid. He was always idol searching. He was always just preparing food or out looking for food and idols. He would say he was looking for food, but he was really going looking for idols all the time. He was very sneaky and nobody really trusted him. And I was the only one that gave him any trust. And then he betrayed me, and it was very obvious.
I love Ty, and Ty and I had an interesting relationship. You know, there were times when we were very close, but then there were other times when we were very far apart. Even though we were apart, we still respected each other and loved each other. You know, the edited versions are always different than what the reality is.
Survivor have to be the hardest thing I ever done. Not the physical part. I actually enjoy all the hardship of basic daily living, but the most difficult part was the idea of trust and not trusting people. It take a toll on my emotion, and it is hand out the hardest thing I ever done in my life.
I still remember how Ty tore up his body trying to climb that tree in Ko Rong to get an idol. Our next survivor also has a nose for idols, as she not only identified to Jason Ziska what his idol really was, but she also is the first female castaway to fall victim to the infamous car curse, leaving her with a 4th place finish on her first season.
It's not the idol.
It is the idol.
It's not the idol.
Yes, it is.
Ozzy must have put it in there. He must have the real thing. That's not the idol.
What is it?
It's a stick.
I know.
We look over and the guys, you know, like we're like kneeling on a mat and they all have like little like stump seats to sit on and they're like right in the center of the action and we're kind of off to the side. And so I immediately start thinking, what's with this? I thought we were all supposed to be part of this ceremony.
I was very hopeful to work well with Eliza. I love Eliza. I'm supporting her run for DA in New York right now. I hope everybody watching this will help support Eliza. You know, she's an incredibly bright, hardworking, vivacious, funny person who was, you know, we were going to really work together. It only fell apart as it seemed clear based on Fair Play's nonsense that our plan was quickly going to hell and people were going to come at us with knives. So our, you know, she ran for the hills. I got knocked out of the game, unfortunately. But I'd work with Liza again in a second. You know, we really understood each other. I was hoping to work with Liza the way that Yul had worked with Becky. You know, we were two New York Jewish people who really saw eye to eye and were ready to go together for a long, long time. And then, you know, we got screwed on the flop and I got injured and, you know, it all came apart. But I'm sure I would have worked with Liza all the way to the end. And then we would have tried to kill each other. You know, that's the beautiful thing about Liza. I have no doubt that she would have done whatever it took to win the game. Even if we went together to the end, she would have said, "I'm sorry, Jonathan, I've got to kill you." And she would have tried. I can say that because I probably would have done the same thing.
Eliza Orleans was a player who always had the best jury facial expressions. Our next survivor is someone who not only inspired my YouTube channel with his talks about how Survivor is a story during the Philippines, but he also has received votes at 12 of the 18 tribal councils he has attended and had the most votes against him in 2 of his 3 seasons.
Come on out. Jonathan Penner.
Jonathan Penner is one of the funniest players and one of the most entertaining players that I've ever watched.
Beat you? Okay. Let's talk turkey. We're gonna do this, we're gonna have to go at it again.
One of my favorite moments in Survivor is him voting for Denise and screaming her name so loudly that she can hear.
Denise.
It's so obvious that he's a storyteller. He gives confessionals with so much passion.
I'm a terrible judge of character, and then I don't really deserve to stay in the game. But I do believe that Scoopin and RC and Jeff, they're gonna vote with me. They all mean it. I really believe they...
And I don't think it's just him talking to the viewer that way. I think that's how he feels about the game of Survivor. I think he's someone who just plays and lives his life with a lot of passion.
You know how on fire I am to win this thing? You know how much I can taste this? And you know how I can actually see it? 39 days from now, I'll make $1 million.
And he's someone who has certainly made plenty of mistakes in Cook Islands, especially.
If you want a mutiny, step off your mat and join the other tribe.
Man, oh my God. But he then turns it around. He wants the good guy to win. And I think he's someone who's incredibly entertaining.
I lost my glasses. I had to go under to get them because the rain washed my contact lens out, which was ridiculous. Fatuous lie.
What he's done for ALS and what he's done for his wife has just been incredible.
Penner loved yelling at Jeff Probst during challenges, but our next player is someone who caused chaos, but did it in a bit more of a quiet way. Instead of her getting loud, she would frustrate others so much that they got loud and had crazy reactions that made her look normal in comparison. And despite all of this madness she caused, she still finished in 3rd place in her first season.
In the shelter, she was like the most popular person in the shelter in in Biome in those early days. She was chatting with everyone. She was chill. She was sharing funny stories. Not at all the kind of devious, hyper strategic person I expected her to be based on Cagayan.
I am an attorney, and my track record is undefeated. They're thinking, oh, how cute, there's the mom. They don't know I'm probably more cunning and ruthless than 95% of the population. So Wu says he didn't tell you anything on the boat yesterday. Just so you know, he shook my hand and swore on his wife and his baby that we have a final 3.
There's people that tell secrets, and there's people like you that go in and blow things up. That's how intelligent you are. You have no idea what you're saying right now. Talking to people and revealing secrets is a totally different animal.
Secret?
When I told you that, you weren't supposed to tell them. You get it? I'm sorry, I don't talk llama. I'm supposed to talk llama to you. You understand that better?
Tell you what, Cass, Chaos Cass, the character on the show, she was hard to deal with. But Cass, the person, she's awesome. We had some heart-to-heart talks out there in the game. And, the game is not all what you see on TV. There's a lot. There's 71 hours and 19 minutes that you don't see of the episode. And Cass and I had real deep conversations about family, about outside of the game life, and she was awesome. As far as the game goes, I didn't agree with a lot of things she did. I didn't even agree with her flipping when she did, which helped me win the game, actually. But I didn't agree with that move. That was a bad move as far as I was concerned. But Cass, yeah, she knew what was going on. She's also sharp. She knows. She's like Spencer. She knows. She was thinking 2-3 steps ahead. But Chaos just wanted to cause chaos more so than trying to win the game, I guess. But Chaos, I have no beef with Chaos. She's awesome.
When you come to me and you say, well, if I go with them, who are my former tribe mates, they're going to let me choose who goes out. And she comes to us and says, I'm telling you who I want out.
We'll talk about it tomorrow. Let's
I
do
don't
this
like
channel.
being accused of being a bully.
Oh, you're not. Nobody's accusing you.
In my view, no one in this game should have that much power. Who made her queen? I can't even look at her. I just want to punch her sometimes. I truly believe I'm the one in the middle. I think I have usurped Sarah's throne tonight. And once again, Chaos Cass will show up at Tribal.
7th person voted out and the first member of our jury. Sarah. Sarah, tribe has spoken.
When Cass, flipped and voted me out in Cagayan, I really took that personal, and I was not the kindest to her. And everybody looked at Cass like, you just made the biggest mistake you can make and whatnot. And, now being removed from the situation, and if you look at it, I mean, I had come into her Brains tribe, with Spencer and Tasha, and I had moved in, and she's been bumped down the line. Well, then Jeremiah and I were close, so that bumps her down even more. And so before you know it, like, of the 6 of us that were against the, new gosh, it's so hard to even remember the tribe, not Apari, but you know what I mean, Tony, top 5, baby, that crew. Cass was like at the bottom. So for her to stick with us, honestly, for her gameplay, that would be so stupid, especially because I was not treating her like she was a member of our team. And that was my biggest takeaway too, is you can't treat people like that, because that's how you get voted out. So that when I went back and played Game Changers, you have to be willing to work with everyone. And I wasn't willing to work with Cass because I wanted to be the, president was Cena, and I wanted to call the shots. Well, look what that got me. So I definitely think for Cass, it was probably the only move she could have made to give herself a chance. But at the same time, it was a double-edged sword because it pissed off a lot of people that probably would not have voted for her in the end. So she was between a rock and a hard place, but if I had to say, she probably made the right choice.
Chaos Cass is a remarkable character in Survivor's history and most certainly needs to play again. Our next survivor is someone who has played 3 times, and many claimed she was robbed on her first appearance. What is very interesting though about that first appearance is that at any tribal council where she receives votes, she always exactly received 2, even at her final tribal council.
In my mind, she was a winner. So I treated her like a winner, like I would have Tony or Sandra, you know, JT, anybody that was out there that was a winner. So I'm like, she's, you know, I don't know what she's like. I don't know what's coming out of her mouth. She seems dangerous enough.
It's so hot out here that I don't think you even realize in the moment how hot it is. You realize when you start moving slower, it kind of scrambles your brain, it slows you down, and you can't escape it. I think this heat might be one of the biggest factors in this game. I mean, look at me. Hopefully it works, because how Michelle decides to play it could weaken me. She has a loaded gun. I just hope she doesn't have very good aim.
I think a lot of people really connected with Aubrey and Aubrey's story because she's somebody who didn't seem at the beginning to be cut out for this game, and she really came into her own, not only by winning a few physical challenges and proving that she is tougher than she even thought she was, but also by strategically making moves in order to get herself further in the game. And people connected with her like underdog, didn't think I can do it kind of story. And I think she also found her own strength throughout the game, and I think we could see her progression as she played. And unfortunately, I do think that she wasn't able to necessarily like portray that at Final Tribal Council, but I think she learned from that her first season, went back for the next 2 seasons and said, I'm not going to do the same thing and make the same mistake. And she came out being, you know, with this confidence that she maybe had lacked in the beginning of the first season.
I don't want to get too excited because my game has been all over the map. It's been like a potpourri of Survivor triumphs and mishaps. And while I might not have been the flashiest person, I was the woman behind the curtain making things happen. But I'm going into this final tribal council like I go into any tribal council. My head is on the chopping block. How do I get it off?
While Aubrey came oh so close to winning it all in Co Wrong, our next survivor is someone who got it oh so right her first season by winning in a 6-1 landslide against a returning fan favorite player, marking the first time a newbie has beaten a returning player at Final Tribal.
Ladies and gentlemen, internet, my name is Peridiam, and you ready? You better be. We're talking Danny Boatwright, the winner of Survivor Guatemala. Time to put some respect back on a forgotten queen's name, because Lord knows Winners at War did her no favors. Danny is that under-the-radar stealth bomber player type personified. Low-key, nearly invisible in 2 appearances, and yet still made out like a robber, ruining your faves at Final Tribal in the end. To me, Danny has all the attributes of what makes a great Survivor player. And while her Season 40 game doesn't paint her in the best light to the newer fans, I am mostly going to be talking about her impressive body of work that she puts up on Season 11. She's not the most aggro, nor is she all about big moves. Danny is a player who can and has played every angle, being in the majority, the minority, playing with newbies, captains, and even facing the firing squad that is the Final Tribal Council. I cannot stress this enough. She played each of these phases about as flawlessly as one player can be expected to play them. And if you hold a magnifying glass up to what she accomplishes, you would probably understand me better when I say she plays a fantastic winning game, nearly top 10, maybe even top 10, and here's the kicker. Most people wouldn't even know it. She is the leader of Nakum, both pre and post swap. She gets dealt a lot of bad luck at the swap, but trades 1 ally for 2, cutting Blake early. She goes into the merge down in numbers through no fault of her own and does something never done before up to that point, and really since. She doesn't succeed by rounding up the stragglers, a common strategy we see time and again, but instead she rounds up the power players. She becomes a key pocket vote for Rafe and Steph. And while yes, yes, I could sit here and talk all day until the cows come home. I will just say she has always impressed me with how she played so strongly from behind. If you want to play and win Survivor and you get dealt a bad hand, look at Danny's game here and take notes. There's more than meets the eye. Also, pregame better when you come back 15 years later. Whoop.
I would not have rather gone on that reward with any other people than those 3 that I was with.
2 hot girls in the shower together.
I won't go that far, not right now. Danny and I are like really similar. She's a cool chick. I've got to look at who's in control of the game and play up to it. You just have to keep trying until you find something that works, because I'm not going to go home.
She set herself up with Rafe so she could be kind of in there in the talk. I mean, how she pulled it off, because we were all backstabbing each other. 6-4, you have the numbers. But if we went to the final 6, I would have won that. I don't think I could have won. I was a dick. But she just made a lot of like secret alliances.
And Danny plays a game that is so underrated. And I think even due to Winners at War, her game is still being really underrated. But I think what she did is she flew under the radar with a group of very, very strong personalities. You had Judd, you had Stephanie, and Danny found a way to infiltrate her way into that group and seemingly not even be there. And I think her keeping a really low profile, yet still being able to call out Gary Hogaboom and calling him out as an NFL player, but everyone looked at him. No one looked at her when she did that. So I think that just shows how strong she can be, especially when she's hiding.
While Danny surprised us all with her victory over Stephanie LaGrossa, our next survivor is someone who surprised us with his growth as a person over his entire first season. He started off as an anxious, paranoid, and seemingly worthless person to his tribe, but eventually evolved into a fan favorite who came oh so close to winning it all.
The first few days of the game, he was like a crazy person, and no one wanted to work with him. He was paranoid and running all over the island, which he always admits. But as the game progressed, he was able to control some of those anxious thoughts and some of those things that drove him to be so paranoid. And I think that most people love an underdog and like an underdog story. And we were watching it in front of our very eyes.
Dave is just one of the nicest guys inside of the game and outside of the game that you'll ever meet. I mean, the guy does not have a bad bone in his body. And so it was just nice hanging out with him, being around with him, and getting to work with him.
I don't really like sleeping outside. I don't like bugs. I don't like the sun. I don't like water. I don't like the ocean. All of those things are terrible. What I do love is the gameplay, and that's why I'm here.
David Wright is one of my all-time favorite survivors, all-time favorite people, the greatest alliance I ever had. I called us Davins. He refused to do so because he's classier than I am. David is a mastermind. I learned so much from David. If I hadn't spent time with David Wright and been as close with him as I was, I would not have made the fake idols. I would not have done like what I think is the greatest thing I did out there, which is sell those 2 fake idols. He gave me the advantage that helped me win my first immunity. I mean, David had his fingers all over our game. And when you look to the edge of extinction after he got out, you don't see much of him because he was always such a positive spirit. Instead of being, you know, one of those folks you could focus on how hard things was, he keeps his head up. He's always out contributing to the tribe, whether it was on the edge or in the game, getting crabs, and he's always got a plan. He kept me level-headed, and we would meet up each night. After everyone went to bed, we would sneak off. We'd call it getting coffee. And we would just talk about what happened. And it was a totally open dialogue. And he just taught me how to see things from every angle. And he was my in-game tutor. And he's a great one to learn from because you saw in Millennials versus Gen X that, I mean, he's one of the great players to ever play this game. I don't think anyone has grown more playing Survivor than David. And I'm lucky to have played with him and learned from him because he affected my game so much, but I'm also lucky to have him as a friend.
While David Wright finished in 4th and missed winning it all by 1 tribal, our next survivor on this list missed winning it all by 1 vote on a season that he strategically dominated. However, that 1 vote was due to a tie to his partner in crime at Final Tribal and shows us all how important social bonds still remain even this late in the show's history.
You saw the passion, you saw his gameplay, and you just, I mean, and also he worked so much around camp. He was always there. He was Daddy Dom. Like, he was awesome.
This is the toughest part. This is what 39 days of work, effort, and energy has come down to, is this one night. I think we're gonna see an epic tribal council, and I know that it's gonna be one for the ages.
Like, I think what Dom did to be able to make it to your top 100 was he was very outgoing, he played hard, and it was visible that his gameplay, that he wanted to win the game throughout the entire season. Either, like, they couldn't have edited that out because he played so hard and he played so well that they weren't able to edit any part of that out.
I promise you, okay? Bro, I
It's
swear
only
everything.
gonna work if we use our brains together.
And we can gonna work. We can.
Wendell and I's relationship is crazy. You know, we're really good friends, but I came here to win this money for my family. So if it means I have to cut this bond that I have with Wendell, that's a risk I'm willing to take when the time is right.
It was awesome to play with Dom. He, out there on the island, we became very close, but the friendship kind of started even before that during casting, with a simple dap. Like, we both made it through the whole casting week, and I saw him around the whole time, and I was like, trying to feel this guy out. And at the end of the week, they bring you from the hotel that they're doing all the casting stuff in to the actual CVS lot where you have to go in front of all the bigwigs. And I was the first in the van, and so I went all the way to the back, and the next person in the van was Dom. And I looked up at him, I did one of these, he dapped me, and that was it. That was our only communication. But then fast forward a matter of months, and we're both on the island together, and I'm like, you know what? This guy seems like someone I'm gonna work with. And ultimately it paid off. We knew if we would gun for each other, then both of us it would end with our mutual destruction pretty much. So we worked together to the end, and both of our strong games showed at the end with the tie vote.
Going into Pearl Islands, I was a fan of the show. I wasn't a super fan. I was the attorney for the Jerry Springer show. I had to work Thursday nights. This is before, on-demand TV and stuff. So anyway, so I watched a bunch of the episodes. And there's two folks in particular that stood out to me that I thought were just really cool, and that's Ethan Zahn and Colby Donaldson. Back then, I admired those guys, and I honestly was one of the motivations because I saw what they did, the Bench of a Lifetime. They were incredibly impressive, and I thought, you know what, that is something that I would love. I'd love the honor, the privilege to be able to do that, to test myself mentally and physically. And I'm just amazed that we're sitting here talking that I played the greatest human experiment on television. I've played it twice now, and it's just an honor, honestly, a privilege.
Next time on the top 100 greatest survivors. As we now enter into the second half of our countdown, we add 10 new names to the ranks. Next week, we present 3 winners and 3 of Survivor's original 16 castaways, one of which had a surprise appearance on Survivor Second Chance, where she played with 2 more people featured on next week's episode. Finally, we round out the episode with 2 female contestants who both finished in second place before playing on opposite tribes in Heroes vs. Villains. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and, as always, stay tuned and keep hope alive.
I can control how they think. If I can whoop these all-stars, doesn't that mean I'm the best ever?
I'm Russell HANTZ, and this is the Russell HANTZ Show.